I hope your day is full of Blackberries and Sidekicks and Nokias, and that's all I have. I thought for sure I was going to be able to recall lots of different old technology pieces, but all I had was Sidekicks and Blackberries. Guys, what's up? Happy Wednesday. Get after it. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. I never say that it's hump day because it feels hack. You know, it feels like people have done it. People have seen it, but I feel like being a hack today. Happy hump day. It's Wednesday. Today's guest is the one, the only Shane Mauss. We have an amazing, insightful, scientific conversation about his latest residency at Area 15 in Las Vegas. He's doing a psychedelic comedy show. But before we get into this week's episode of Shank with Shane Mauss, there's just something I want to tell you about, and that's socks. Oh, yeah. Look down at your feet right now. Are you wearing socks? If you're not wearing socks, ask yourself why, you dirty little piggy. Get some socks. It's time. Not only are these socks so comfy, but they have so many amazing designs to choose from. Whether you're into lollipops or aliens, there's a pair of socks for you. Shop ohyeah.com. That's 3 O's HYEAH.com. Discount code Sara10 for 10% off unique sock designs. And I am coming to Texas next week. Yeehaw. Your girl is going to be in Austin, Texas next week. Come see me. I'm headlining at Vulcan Gas Co. April 7th. Come out. Support live comedy. I'm going to be doing sets all over the Austin area next week. So look out for me at Princess Shank on Instagram and Twitter for show dates. And I'm also coming to Arizona in June with Kim Congdon. We're coming to Mic Drop Mania. That's the 23rd and 24th of June. All right, guys, let's get into this episode of Shank with the one, the only Shane Mauss. Here it is. Thanks. These lights. I want to look 23.
How old are you?
35.
You're 35?
Yeah, I'm
36. You look so young. Really?
Yeah.
I would have said 28, 29.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to be 36.
Okay, nice.
Do you hear that? It's menopause. It's knocking.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you gotta make
no
the
more
best
birth
out
control.
of it. Hell yeah, dude. Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hell yeah. Guys, welcome back to another episode of Shank. I'm Sara Weinshenk, and today's guest is the one, the only comedian Shane Mauss.
Hello.
Hi, I'm so excited to have you on.
Thanks. Nice
You're
to be
returning back to the podcast, but this time I have a studio.
Oh, very fancy.
She's evolved.
Yeah.
So
do you refer to yourself as she?
Third? Sometimes if I feel like
yeah,
it. If I feel a little like fun,
yeah,
I'll refer to myself as she third person.
All right, I'm into it.
I'm keeping you on your toes.
He likes it.
Yeah, he likes it. That's amazing. I'm so excited to have you on. You are doing a residency at Meow Wolf.
Yeah, Area 15.
Area 15. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and in fact, I found out this just happened this morning. I just added some warm-up shows in LA this Friday.
Really?
At the Creative Technology Center. It's this like weird little place that you would never find, and it's in this what's the name? Some brewery place that it's like some old historic brewery that no longer makes beer, and now it's just this artist collective space.
That's awesome.
With all these different studios, and these people that do like dome and visual arts for a living have this studio so they can prep stuff for big festivals and stuff like that. So they have a dome in there and a big LED screen.
That's
and everything.
So cool.
And the guy that's doing the main digital artist and doing a lot of VJing, video jockeying stuff for my show, because it's a immersive psychedelic comedy show.
That's
called
so
A
cool.
Better Trip. It's at a studio, so it's just a small, like 50 seats. So we're doing we did some run throughs last weekend, and now we did the first shows with added visuals this last weekend.
Awesome.
So we're like, let's add a couple more because it was evolving every single show. And it's cool because it's not like the show isn't like set and stuff. Like I don't need to be locked into the visuals
background.
and stuff because he's looping things and morphing things, so I can riff and I can stop and I can like comment on what's happening and have him change things.
That's sick.
Moment. It's really cool.
So you're gonna do shows this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend in LA.
What's the date on Friday? You know,
it's
gonna be the 31st.
The 31st.
Yeah, news to me. I also don't. Comedians
we don't even know what day it is or who we are.
Or who we are.
I'm like, it could be Wednesday for all I fucking know.
Can you look up on the phone who we are? read our Wikipedia pages to us. Yeah, and so my Vegas residency at Area 15 starts on April 23rd. Psychedelic Sundays.
It's
Sundays. Gonna be every Sunday, except they just notified me today that they need to change one to a Monday in May. So just go to shanemauss.com and you'll find it. But yeah, it's so you got to see some of the more immersive spaces.
I did the Area 15. You got me a unicorn pass, and I was loving it.
You got a unicorn? They haven't given me a unicorn pass.
Yeah, they gave me a unicorn pass. I was zip lining. I was having the time of my life. I took mushrooms. I was by myself on mushrooms, zip lining. I was like, fuck it, YOLO.
Yeah, that's amazing. How'd you like Omega Mart?
Omega Mart was amazing.
Yeah, it's so for listeners, there's the Meow Wolf is this big artist collective that they started in Santa Fe in like 2008 or something like that.
And I've been dying to go.
Yeah, and it's like 250 people total that have they started making these big huge art installations and these weird trippy immersive things, and then they got their own space back in like 2016 or something. George R.R. Martin, Game of Thrones, leased a bowling alley for them.
No,
in Santa Fe, because he's from Santa Fe and like buys up some property and makes cool things there. And so that was their first space, and it's this crazy, interesting, immersive thing. And then their new one is in Vegas in the Area 15. They're the main thing in Area 15, Omega Mart, which is like, it's like if like Andy Warhol and Salvador Dali made like a satirical grocery store or something.
Yeah.
And then you go through a cooler and then you're in like this whole alien world and a portal has opened and it's bleeding through into this grocery store. And
it's so cool.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. I had the best time. I was like, I want to live there. It's like an alien supermarket, kind of, because it's all outer space theme, right?
Yeah. So I emceed a psychedelic conference there because I do a lot of psychedelic comedy shows. And this is like a year and a half ago, and I saw their space where they have like the moving Van Gogh exhibits and those where it's all four walls and dimension. I was like, you guys need an immersive psychedelic comedy show here, and I do psychedelic comedy shows, and so we put it together, and now it's launching in a smaller room to start with just one screen to build it for the big room with all four screens if everything
crazy.
Goes well. Yeah.
So you're starting it in the small room, but then you want to move to the bigger one.
They wanted me to start in the big one right away, and I was like, that's intimidating to like I can't just plan out what the visuals are going to like. I'm a comic. I need to work
get my
through
hours.
things and figure out like I have all the material, but just not combined with visuals. And so that's a whole other process.
And that's a different thing, yeah. Because you're like, do you call out the visual like it's crowd work?
I'm figuring that out. I just had the first runs of it and like learning little things. Like I was on the side of the stage at first so people could see the whole screen. And then it was like, I was narrating the screen the whole time. And I'm like, oh, I got to be in the center because then it's just like around me, so people don't need to shift their attention. And like little things like that that's why we added a couple more test shows so I can keep on tweaking.
That's awesome.
But it's really cool. It's like a ton of visionary artists from around the country contributing, and
that's so cool.
And you did Comedy Central Tales from the Trip.
Yeah.
So the creator of that show, Grant Lindahl, he's contributing a bunch of visuals and everything to the making a bunch of animation for the show.
That's so cool.
Yeah. My last tour was the inspiration for Tales for the Trip.
That's so cool. I'm so excited for you.
With me on a bunch of things. So
that's
it's
so
really fun.
Yeah, I like so that excited. You combined. You oftentimes integrate art into what you're doing. Yeah. Because you have your other podcasts.
Yeah. Mind Under Matter.
Yes.
Ramin Nazer, an amazing artist. And I'm getting other artists involved in that as well. I've been working with visual artists and things for a long time. And I was looking to put together immersive things. I was starting to do that before COVID. And then it got interrupted but it was tricky because I do science shows too, not just psychedelic shows. I have a science podcast called Here We Are. And Psychedelics is just the one that's a bit more popular than hearing about insects or the biology or whatever. Unfortunately, I wish it was the other way around, but it is what it is. And so I was traveling from city to city I'd have projectors and stuff. So if a venue didn't have things, I would get there hours ahead of time and be setting up things and like changing sound. It was a lot of work. Every single city, it was like a new venue to figure out how to display things and make things work. And it was like 4 cities a week.
No, I can't even imagine that, because even just like setting up a tripod, I'm like, oh God.
Not tonight. I don't need to record. I won't set up a tripod because I hate watching myself anyway. So I'm like, I'm not going to do it. That's why my social media is so abysmal. Because I never do the work of putting the clips
so
together.
Much. Luckily, I have Xavier. He helps me.
Do you like watching your set? Most comics are like, oh, you're supposed to watch your sets and everything. And like, I've been a comedian for over 18 years, I think now. And I still am like, no, thank you.
The thought of watching my set to pick clips is like, I just got a chill up my spine.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. My idea of who I am is so different than who I appear to be when I watch myself on video.
Yeah.
Do you have that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, one, our voices sound different to us because we're hearing them through our own, like, vibrating off of our jawbones and stuff, and then we hear what everyone else hears, and we're like, I don't sound like that, do I?
Yeah.
And I'm just hypercritical, which I guess is the reason why you're supposed to watch yourself, so you can be like, I don't like that mannerism, I'm going to change it. And I'm like, I'll take a imperfect mannerism over hating myself. Watching
yeah, same. I mean, because I don't know. And also, like, if there's moments of the set that you didn't like, and then you're like, I want to see what went wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. And I also don't do like much crowd work ever, and so that's like the hot thing of like, someone where they're probably
I know. I'm trying to do more of it just for that, because you're like supposed
to. Have to do. I don't know. I guess I'm like some stubborn purist or something like that. I've always had like a chip on my shoulder of like, I have to be unique and creative and all and I don't like what everyone else is doing. I think I'm a little rigid in that thinking, but I scroll through the Instagram and see like comics that I love. But you're only showing the thing where it's like comedian owns Heckler. I'm like, I don't know if you did.
I don't like it because all of a sudden, you're going to the audience, which is always unpredictable. Like, I like depending on myself. That's why I'm on stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to, I start talking to you. I don't know what your job is. It could get weird as fuck.
I also don't care. Like,
yeah.
I like to think I'm like decent on podcasts, and so there's
Yeah.
something about I hit record. I've interest in science and things that gives me a unique perspective. Sure, but like like crowd work is like small talk, and I'm not like a small talky kind
Yeah.
of person, and so
And it's like I have material that I want to do.
Yeah, so I don't.
Like I've been
Whatever.
working on this material for the last
I
however many
know.
years. I'd like to say it out loud without some drunk interrupting me.
And I thought we were like it was the whole when I started in 2004. There was already people were starting to learn that like, hey, I should. What if I come and heckle? Am I helping you? And they were starting to learn that that's not helping.
Right.
And now people are going to think that that's helping again to yell out things. It's like, but I saw on TikTok, if I yell out a stupid thing, you'll get 1 million views. And I would rather you just not yell out a stupid thing and I'll take 200 views.
Yeah, please don't yell out a stupid thing. So I have to stop and tell you to shut up.
Yeah.
And then it's
Have
a weird.
you ever lost it?
What?
Have you ever lost it on people?
I have, but not in a long time.
Yeah,
when I
it's been
first
good for me
started,
too.
I already feel weird telling someone to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always, a lot of times it'll happen where there'll be someone like toward the frontish and it's a table. And a lot of times there's no, people think heckling is the big deal. A lot of times it's just table talk or people being distracted.
Yes.
Sometimes people will even be like saying positive, you told some story and they're like, oh, this reminds me of this time. But now you see other tables around them now like turning and looking and being distracted by them. And I'll like try to give looks and like do material, like subtle things. And then I'll amplify where I'm like, hey, yeah, like that real subtle.
Yeah.
And that like no one else even notices, just to like the table to like very politely.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then after a while, like 20 minutes will go by and I'm like, hey, now I got to stop the show and address this. And now the people in the back that had no idea any of this is going on, like, wow, Shane really has a short fuse.
Yeah.
You look like such a dick.
Yeah. It's a lose-lose situation.
It is such a lose-lose. And that's, I'll tell you, I very much enjoy the psychedelic audience for that. I wasn't sure if I was going to do psychedelic material anymore. Like I'm more interested in my science stuff. This opportunity came up and I was like, well, this is my dream to combine it with all the art and the visuals and everything. So like, I'm going to make this happen. But I was like, I don't necessarily want to be pigeonholed as the psychedelic guy. It's not my main interest anyway. But the audiences are like very special. They're just like, they're so polite and nice, but they're usually a little more intelligent than other people. They don't drink as heavily.
Yeah.
They drink and have fun and catch a buzz, but they don't get like out of control smashed. And it's just, they're just such an ideal audience.
That's awesome.
Because I'll draw science audiences and they're awesome. And I can do, it's like, oh, I want to do smarter material. And then I'll get in front of like a real sciencey crowd. I'm like, oh no, now I have to do very smart material. There's like people much smarter than me in this room. And I like having to, raise the bar a little bit.
Yeah, evolve.
But the science crowd can sometimes be like a little buttoned up, and sometimes I want to do like an anal joke, and they're like, "Oh, you came here for science jokes,"
No.
and whereas the psychedelic audience, it's just the perfect mix of everything. They're smart, they're polite, they're open, they're down to like get weird or whatever. They don't mind like an edgier joke or whatever.
Right.
They're just such an ideal audience. I love them.
Right. My neighbor actually is the one that told me about you.
He was at my show.
I know, he totally messaged me again.
Yeah, he came to my worst show. There was that.
He
so
did?
we planned the shows like this. I just booked these shows. This is Monday that we're recording. I booked these shows for Friday because we're just like scrambling to warm up things.
Right.
So it's like 5 days notice. And so it was same sort of situation where we booked like 7 shows, like a week's notice. and one of them only had like 20 people out of, it's a small space, like 50. And then there was, I hope the person isn't watching. So there's one half of the room that your neighbor was on, and they were really great. The other half of the room, I had everyone move up, and there was a deaf person with a sign language person like right in the front row, and then everyone else behind them was just like watching the sign language the whole time. And I can't be like, hey, can you move your sign language to the back so it's not distracting?
No, you can't do that.
You can't at all.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But
so distracting,
it
probably.
Is a bit distracting. Have you had the sign language?
I did a show one time where there was a sign language interpreter on stage with me. Mm-hmm. And I had a joke about cock rings, and then like
that's
watching the sign language interpreter do cock ring. Yeah, it was amazing. And my set was videoed, and I was like, this is gonna be the best clip ever. Like, I finally have a clip that I can post. Like, so excited. I get home. You can only see me, not the interpreter.
Oh.
So I couldn't even post it. And it was so funny because I kept saying cock ring just so that she would do it again and again because it was so ridiculous looking.
Sign language is so cool. I love that video, the person that did the fake sign language.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it went viral, right? It was like so.
Can you imagine the balls? That's just
so fun.
Oh, of course it was Florida.
Yeah, of course it was Florida.
Look at the confidence on her face. That's incredible.
Wait, press.
You gotta press the play. Press play. This is what my Emerge Psychedelic shows me yelling at my guys. Why is it paused right
now? Interpreter accused of signing total gibberish. This time it was at the police news conference.
That's so convincing.
She's doing it with such confidence.
So first degree murder.
I would be so bad.
Every word. This woman.
We received over 5.
She is making it.
But it turns out much
it's so good.
Nonsense. She waved her arms around like she was singing jingle.
Oh my God, I can't stop watching it.
Here's a fun sign language thing. So so sign language has some puns.
Okay.
In it.
Okay.
This is like the only sign language that I know.
There's puns in sign language. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So this is a pun. I don't think anyone's ever fully gotten it. Lots of people have gotten very, very close.
Okay.
I'll break it down. So
okay.
First off, what's this?
That can't be good. Squeeze?
No.
Milk?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Now combine.
Milk. Squeeze?
Where's it going? Like,
I have no idea where.
It's pasteurized milk.
Oh, pasteurized milk.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is that is crazy.
So I guess they have these weird like puns and stuff inside.
Pasteurized milk. That's so weird. How did you learn that?
It was I think that was my favorite scientist is this guy Robert Sapolsky out of Stanford. He has a before like online courses were really popular, they just set up cameras in his class like years ago, and it's human behavioral biology class.
Cool.
It will change your life. It's like 22 classes or something like that. Is it you watch it? There's no like homework assigned. It's just amazing lectures. He's hilarious. He's like funnier than almost any comic, and he explains science. He's a genius. He's my favorite scientist that there is.
What does he explain? Like, what about him? What about what he's teaching is makes him your favorite?
He is a neuroscientist and a primatologist. So he is a neuroscientist most of the time, and then 3 months out of the year he's getting older, and he hasn't been doing it the last few years, but for every summer he would go to I think Kenya or so. somewhere in Africa, you would study baboons and stress levels. And so his most famous book, or at least was a book called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and it's all about.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, and it's all about how all of our stress response systems and like every mammal is essentially the same, and so you, for example. Both a zebra, a lion will chase after a zebra, and they're both having the exact same stress response in terms of like what hormones are releasing cortisol and this and that. And what it's doing is mobilizing energy from away from digestion and things like that and into muscles instead. Like, we need to power the legs. I don't need to digest. This is no time for a boner. It's about delegating energy. And then when the zebra gets away or whatever, it goes into this parasympathetic. It dials everything back down, and you go back into this homeostasis, and then Justin comes back online, and that zebra can start eating again and stuff. And with his main thing is like in humans, because we can think so far into the future, we can activate that same stress response thinking about our 401k or like getting owned by a heckler next month or something like that. And so there's not as much of a opportunity for that parasympathetic response to dial down. It's just really easy for humans to stay chronically stressed. And so
you're preaching to the choir, Shane.
Yeah. So it messes with our digestion, our sex drive, our memory, all sorts of things, creates cancer earlier. And that's a lot of his stuff. And then a lot of status stuff. So in baboons, like the top guy will pick on the lower one, and then the lower one will pick on the one below them, and all of these things. And so you don't want to be the guy on the bottom. The guy on the top doesn't always have it the best either, because he's like always having to keep that place.
Okay.
But the guy at the bottom is chronically stressed all of the time because everyone's taking out. If someone bullies you, if you bully someone else back, it disperses stress. It's very sad. But it's
that
just
makes
how
sense.
Primates work, and baboons model some human kind of status systems and things like that. So you can go into like government jobs where there's like a real strict kind of status and not a lot of movement, and measure stress levels, and the person in the mailroom is experiencing the kind of same amount of chronic stress as that low run baboon.
That's
and
crazy.
Like, a lot of that stuff, but he's a genius and studies all sorts of like mostly the worst, saddest neurologic conditions like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And so he's like saving the world. He's amazing. And he's funny. And, yeah, he's great. Robert Sapolsky. Can't say enough about the guy.
Robert Sapolsky.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah, my therapist brings up primates a lot.
Yeah?
Yeah, my psychiatrist. She likes bringing them up.
Not in relation to you, just like talking about certain monkeys that she's been enjoying. Like, hey, have you seen this video?
No, like in relation to me, but like explaining
we're
explaining the way that like men and women are in like relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I was like,
absolutely.
oh, this alpha monkey. I was like, okay, sick.
Yeah, that's my first science-y special was called Mating Season. It was
really?
on Netflix. It's now on Amazon Prime. This is ages ago when Netflix first started doing comedy specials. And it was all about that sort of stuff. Mating behavior is something that at least there was a period of time in my life that I knew more about it than like pretty much anyone.
The mating behavior of primates?
Of just mammals, and like I've read like a 600-page book about insect vaginas before. Like I know a lot about mating behavior.
Insect vaginas?
Mating behavior across pretty much all species. There's a lot of like common things that happen and parallels with a lot of species, and then there's things that are particular to humans, and there's all sorts of like and then it's also it's some of the stuff that's bubbling up now with like there, there's like academic freedom stuff that I know because I put out my special mating season, and it was unpopular with both sides of the aisle because I would talk about gender difference, biological influences and gender differences, and there's a misunderstanding that means that they're determined or something like that, and that's not. No scientist is saying that. They're just saying like, hey, these are these observations that we're making. We're not like being prescriptive or anything, and like in fact, if you don't like I don't consider myself like some big alpha guy or like what, like there's. I get that people don't want to be like put into some sort of certain box. And so it's like, if you don't want to be, it's like actually very useful to know about some of these biological things that might prime you to like be a certain way or others to be a certain way, so that you can catch yourself and be like, oh, that's just some hormonal interactions happening. Right now,
like you can separate and see.
Yeah. And then so like, the right didn't like hearing about evolution, and then the left didn't like hearing about gender difference stuff. And this was years ago. And then this is all bubbled up into this whole thing. And then there's a lot of grifters that are like, academia is not letting me say my thing and free speech. And it's like, it's usually a little overblown to like for attention, in my opinion. But it's also a real thing that happens specifically like in academia, but it's endlessly fascinating. Like there are like basic things like some of the early work in evolutionary biology and psychology with this stuff is this minimal parental investment theory. This is why men and women potentially have and no one's saying the other thing that you have to say is like, just because men are generally taller than women doesn't mean some women aren't taller than some men, and blah, blah, blah. Like,
there's always,
we're talking about, even if like this is the case in 60% of the population or whatever, it's significant. And so it's basically the species, you can look across any species and whatever gender of that species has the highest minimal cost of bearing offspring.
Okay.
Which is almost always females.
Okay.
Is going, in humans, 9 months of pregnancy and everything else is so that's like the minimum. Like say there was no, not that men don't contribute and everything else in a lot of cases, but the minimum is a load. Right. And the minimum a lady would have to do is give birth, and like maybe someone else could take care of it, but just that like very, very, very minimum.
Yeah,
it's higher. Fucked. And so the gender that has a higher cost of minimal investment is typically going to be much more selective, and the other gender's typically going to be doing
that's
a lot
interesting.
more. So, like male stags will be like bashing each other's heads. They only do that during mating season. Males and females don't have a whole lot to do with one another during the rest of the year. And then females become fertile, and the males grow their racks just for that time.
Really?
They're a pain in the ass. They get caught in trees and everything else. They just grow them just for that time to bash each other's heads in to impress the ladies, and then they fall off after mating season and stuff. Yeah.
But like also, I'm supposed to be impressed with you bashing in someone else.
That's the thing. It's
maybe
so a lot of species. So in humans, it's different in different species. So in some species, it's like, oh, this thing is showing signs of being able to provide or find resources, that sort of thing. So in a deer population, if all you're getting out of a dude is sperm, then it better be like the highest quality sperm. And so then there's these ideas of how to test that is through these kind of honest indicators of fitness. And there's this idea of this handicapping principle, which is you intentionally you intentionally make things harder than they need to be just to advertise just how fit you are.
You're
So,
like, pick me, I have good dick, look what I can do.
yeah, or
Kind of.
you spend like tens of thousands of dollars more on a car because it has this emblem that shows that like, hey, I'm so good at accruing resources that I can burn them conspicuously in front of people. So things like that.
Okay.
And so that's a lot of what you'll see in male behavior. Like the male peacock feather was the first that inspired some of these earlier ideas of like, why is the females don't have them because they're stupid. They weigh the females down. They stick out to predators. They can't fly very well with these huge plumages. And so like the females are built for like sensibly to like fly around.
The females are ugly like the ducks.
And but they don't get eaten.
Fair.
But the males have this stupid thing that is weighing them down and getting them eaten left and right. And a plumage is the dumbest thing that you could have on you.
I love it though, from like a fashion perspective.
I know, exactly. So this is a riddle, which is like, what is the utility in that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly that. It's like it's exceptionally costly, and it's also hard to get symmetrical. So if a peacock has like if it's had like been sick and had like parasitic loads and stuff like that, it won't have as symmetrical of a tail. So this is a thing that a female can
sniff out,
look at and measure and be like, okay, that's the most symmetrical, and this is an indicator that they probably have a good combination of genes, plus have navigated the environment in a way that with success, that they haven't like injured themselves a lot or gotten too sick or whatever else.
So they'll be like, oh, get your weak feathers away from me.
And males, exactly, like males not as discerning. So like they'll do studies with turkeys, and it's really interesting too, because it's just it picks up on something over time. I think it's called a snood, that weird thing that's coming down off of the turkey thing.
Yeah.
And the females like it. It turns out it's right next door to the gene for that is right next door to a gene that's really good for their immune system. And so all that it is, this happens by mistake. So some female that just happens to be kinky and attracted to this weird thing on the nose is just going to happen to inherit a better immune system for their offspring. And the females that she has will happen to have a preference for that thing. The males will happen to have a little more of that thing. And then that's how evolutionary arms races work. So the males will, so you can put a bunch of males on display for a female, and the female will like walk around to each thing and like look at the plumage and like look at how its chest is and stuff, and then it will sit by like one in particular and be like, okay, I want this one. The males, they can't figure out what a male's even looking for. Like they've made fake females, just like styrofoam and a head and like a crappy plumage, and dude's like, whatever. And then they'll like make it all wonky and change the plumage so it's like sideways on it, and male will take like a little while longer and be like, I'll give it a shot. You can't get the dudes won't stop banging like this styrofoam ball. Like you have to like take the tail feathers, put them over here, the head like separate it, put it over here, and then the guy's like, I better not.
No.
Yeah, because it's just like it's just a batch. There's no real cost to like throwing a batch in.
That's so funny.
So there's all these things that lead to that, and then in humans, that ends up being driving our psychology in different ways. So we have these various cognitive biases, like there's a smoke alarm up there, and that smoke alarm's been engineered to be biased. You can't build a perfect smoke alarm, so it can err in one of two ways. It can either go off when it's not supposed to.
Well, the worst.
That's annoying. But what's even worse than that is if it doesn't go off when it's supposed to, and people die and buildings burn.
Yeah, that would be worse.
And so they intentionally bias smoke alarms to be overly sensitive, because there's a lower cost involved to a false positive than a false negative. And our minds have evolved in this same way. So one of the things that was predicted from this is some early work of a good friend of mine, Marty Hazelton. She's at UCLA. she does this error management, is like what that smoke alarm is called, and taking like what we knew about biology and mating behavior and testing it out. So she did a study that they'd have people on speed dates, male and female, and then they'd also have a male and female like watching them like through a mirror or watching video afterwards or whatever, 7-minute speed date, and the afterwards they ask like the male and female like how it went, and the female will be like, it's just being nice, and the female watching be like, I think she is just being nice, and both males will be like, oh, she wanted it. No. Because for guys there's a lower cost and a missed opportunity.
Okay.
So if there's a female that might be interested and I assume that she's not, and I don't pursue, that's like evolutionarily that's potentially missing out on an opportunity for my genes to pass like a million years into the future. Whereas if I misperceive interest by a female, like it's awkward or whatever, but there's just a higher cost involved. So there's individual differences, some people are shyer or whatever else, but this is just like overall, this is what you find.
But I believe this.
There's also a thing of sexual regrets, the difference between males and females generally.
Okay, what's the difference?
You ask males and females about like to talk about some sexual regrets, and it's probably going to make all sorts of sense when you hear it. Males' sexual regrets are typically about the ones that got away. Okay. The females, can you guess, are typically about the times that they had sex that they wish they hadn't. They're like, the time I banged the football team, or like whatever. That's usually the females regret the guys. They're like, if I would have just, I could have got the one. And yeah.
That's wild. So, I made some mistakes. Sexual regrets are real.
Yeah.
You're like, last night.
Well, oh, sorry, I interrupted.
No, just sometimes when you're like, I remember like in my 20s, I had lots of sexual regrets. Now I'm more selective with my energy.
Yeah. I mean, well, when you're younger too, you got to like figure out what you want more and everything. But there's also, it's also weird with modern humans because this is the first time in, 4.6 billion years that a thing like birth control has been around. Humans have been around for 200,000 years. Right. And now there's birth control. And so there's not as much of a cost. There's even condoms and things. So there's not even the same STD cost. There's not the same risk. Yeah. But you still have this same old biology that's like you probably shouldn't, if you didn't get a kid from that, if you didn't get an STD from that or whatever, there's like no reason for you necessarily to be ruminating on those past experiences. Right. But good luck telling that to your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. So that's the sort of stuff.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, so you read a book on insect vaginas?
Insects are really interesting.
Why are they so interesting?
Well, they
look like little aliens. Like your grasshopper. Exactly. I'm like, you're from another planet.
That's the thing. People are like obsessed with it. Oh, what if there's aliens out there? So I was like, dude, just watch Planet Earth. Like, yeah. What do you think? What do you think a grasshopper is? It's all like, why aren't... Yeah, that's as alien as a thing gets. It's right in front of you. You just take it for granted because it's, I don't know, some people just want like, they care more about the unknown or whatever than I'm more passionate about learning more about the known world. I think it's underappreciated.
There's this bug with antennas.
Yeah.
That's alien as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't you pull up Google damselfly penis for me?
Damselfly penis?
This is the best penis that there is.
Whoa.
So you're going to be so impressed. Don't get too worked up.
I'm so excited about this.
Yeah. Go to the one on the top left there. Yep.
Huge.
So basically... This gets into like the sperm competition stuff. So so these males aren't sticking around to raise kids or anything, and so typical. And females, they
boys, fuckboy flies.
Exactly. And females, they have all of these different chambers, so they can store a bunch of different dudes' spunk. So you can be like,
sick. You can pick and choose.
And you have it for a lifetime. And then you release some eggs and you go like, let's see how cute these kids are, and see how they do. And so, if they're duds or whatever, then you go like, I'll try a different one. And the environment's always shifting. So different, like what genes work in one environment might not work in another. So a stud in one environment might not be in some other environment. So the females can kind of pick and choose and do like trial and error, but the prediction is, and so
this is crazy.
But if you're a male, and so insects are insanely promiscuous. And so if you're a male insect, you want to have you want as many of your genes being passed on. This male wants as much of his sperm being used. So there's this evolutionary arms race. Yeah, that's how they bone, by the way. It's like
that's them fucking?
Yeah. They dude puts it right in her neck. It's
what?
Real sex. Yeah.
What? Can you pull that up? On. Make it bare. Whoa. In the neck?
You've never tried a little neck sex?
It's just getting fucked in the neck?
Yep. And
whoa. Dragonfly sex is a very conspicuous event.
yeah. And so what happens is that there's incentive for females to mate with as many different guys as possible.
Okay.
There's incentive for males to compete with males and do things to give their sperm an advantage. And this isn't a conscious thing. These are just like little copying errors that evolve over time that get selected for by accident. And like the environment or whatever just favors one or the other. Sometimes it doesn't mean it's good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the best genes have went extinct long ago. Just sometimes the bad ones luck out or whatever. But basically, generally, the males then have these. So go back to that first picture. So the males do because the females banging a bunch of other dudes. This dick unravels. These are forceps that guy uses to scoop out other guys' sperm. Yeah. No. Yeah. And then
no.
Yeah, and then some species they
scooping out another man's cum with your forceps on your dick.
Actually, there's some speculation that because basically the rule is that the more promiscuous females are in a given species, the more sophisticated the male genitalia will be. Like a gorilla has a very tiny penis and it has testicles on the inside because gorillas fight for mates, and then the top guy just gets all of the mate. His size genital size doesn't matter at all. It's just whatever guy won all of the fights is the top guy. He mates with all the females.
Okay.
And so you don't want testicles on the outside of your body. That's a stupid place to have them in a fight. And they have just tiny, tiny penises. And whereas other primates that have like bonobos, for example, that bang a lot, have more sophisticated genitalia for a lot of different reasons. One, testicles on the outside of the body mean more sperm. So if there's multiple males sleeping with a female, if you have more sperm, you're getting more shots in the lottery. It only takes one sperm to impregnate a lady, but we're having millions of sperm in a given load. And then the shape of the head, it's speculated that could have been used to like suck out some others.
Like squids or octopus do that, right?
There's a lot of species that have something like that. And so so the damselfly, they'll have different species have different things, but often they'll have a little cement package that they shoot in afterwards. So they'll have like my sperm, not all of human sperm is for fertility. Some of it is kamikaze sperm that kills off other sperm.
Wait,
like
humans?
competitive in humans. Yeah. And
Wait,
not all of it is
what?
fertile. Yeah. And so
I
a
didn't
lot of
know
species
that.
have things like this. Yeah.
Oh.
And so yeah, this guy will scoop out sperm, blasted thing it.
Scooping out sperm with your penis is a lot.
And then cementing a lady up afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's just to buy it time. It's sometimes referred to as corking.
Corking.
Honeybees do this. A male honeybee dies after every single time it has, if it's lucky enough to. The female flies way up in the air to test the guy. There's always a fucking test. And he, you got to test the best flyer. The female's much faster than the males are, and they got to chase her and stuff. And then she'll select a guy. And then because she's going to mate with many other males, when the guy's done, his testicles explode, and then his junk just pops right into her vagina and plugs it up for a little while. So that other guys, and then how this evolutionary plugs it up. And then
wait, he puts his dick inside me and then he dies, and then I'm walking around
breaks
with his
it off.
dick
Literally
inside.
breaks it off.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and then it falls out of so then there's like evolutionary arms races for you to be able to like wiggle it out, or like for other guys to be able to pull it out afterwards. So there's new opportunities for that.
It would be so fucked up if a new guy would have to pull out a former guy's penis to fuck you.
Yeah, and it also like I would look at it too to see how I like measured up to like oh, this is intimidating, or but yeah, so that's
this little thing, this is what was blocking you up. Like, that's fucking crazy to me.
Yeah, so these are just some of the
I understand why you got into
outcomes.
this.
Yeah.
The cementing part was rough.
Endlessly.
If someone cemented up my pussy after, I'd be like, this isn't gonna work. Gross.
Yeah.
Science is a lot. What about
Science is a lot would be a fun name for a podcast.
Yeah, science is a lot.
Just all the most disturbing things about science. Yeah.
Seahorses? What do you know about those? I know the men have the babies.
The females inject their eggs into the male, and the male carries those eggs to fruition.
I would love that.
Because the males have the higher cost of that minimal parental investment, the females are actually the ones that compete for the males and like do all the sophisticated dancing and stuff like that. And then in humans, you see that there's like a lot more, in like a lot of species like penguins and stuff, there's a lot more symmetry, and the different various advertising and stuff because like females through evolutionary time selected males that were better at contributing and stuff like that. And then there's always like ways of cheating the system. And so there's this nursery web spider that the females like gifts. Believe it or not, I don't know if you can. It seems bizarre and alien, but the females enjoy gifts. Usually in the sense of food, and so the males will bring some big piece of food for the female. But nursery web spiders, they'll even dress it up a little bit, and they'll wrap it up.
What do you mean?
Yeah, with their silk, they'll wrap it up and make a little present for the female.
They wrap the little treat up?
Yeah, and
I love that.
Well, it's kind of sneaky.
Why?
Because some of the males will just wrap up a bunch, and it's actually not that great of a gift. Sometimes it's just like a shell or something, and there wasn't even food in there, and they just wrapped up a whole thing, and the female's tearing it open, and while the guy's banging, and then before she realizes like this is a cubic zirconia.
Fuck
he's
you.
He's already in there. Yeah.
Cheapskate.
It's sneaky, so you gotta watch out. And so there's a lot of things like that. A lot of males die in insects. Australian redback spider. The female's much larger. She's not going to be getting anything out of the guy, so the guys actually offer themselves as a gift to the female. And the female will start eat, like the female has her vag. She has 2 of them basically on each side of her mouth.
Her
And
vagina's by her mouth.
Yeah, so
She's got 2 pussies on her face.
Yeah, you'd have to put in like mating, maybe. Yeah, she has 2 face pussies.
That's insane.
Yeah, and so he starts feeding himself to her while he bangs
No.
her while she's eating him, and
no.
and he has to do like a dance just to be selected to be eaten by this female, and then the female will often like spit him out halfway eaten, and he'll have to do another dance like half eaten for her to be like, okay, that's a nice half body dance, and then she'll let him bang the other side of his mouth, and that guy, he dies living his best life. That's what he's built for. That's everything.
That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, if I had 2 pussies on my face, I would not be podcasting.
Well, because you wouldn't make it down the street. I mean,
I'd be busy getting face fucked.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's wild, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What other weird facts do you have for me? I'm like, what?
Well, what do you want to know about? I don't
know, maybe something like monogamous, like penguins or something. Something sweet.
Yeah, there's
Something
all
like
sorts
cute.
of sweet things.
Something without 2 face pussies.
so lame. You don't want more 2-face? Well, everyone's got their own kink. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, monogamy is, I guess I'm like a dark kind of person. I like seeing like the tragic aspects
of science,
of life, just generally.
You
so
do?
I do. Yeah, I think I always have. It feels real.
Yeah.
I was born in a like a Pleasantville-ish, a small outside of this little city called La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I had like a aw shucks kind of wholesome Pleasantville upbringing, and I just like never fit into it, and I always like my Catholic upbringing and
Catholicism will really fuck you up.
Yeah.
I like a little darkness too, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. A little bit.
And so like so I hope this doesn't, bum me out too. But there's a lot of monogamy's
dead.
Strange when it's not that it's strange. It makes sense. It's just that there's so few species that do it. And it's just that females, through things like, selecting for a guy that will provide food or whatever, and then things like birds started selecting for guys that would show signs of like returning with food, and
we all want them to return.
And so there was, historically, it was birds you would look and you would think like, oh, they're these like super monogamous species. That's birds probably model human mating in a lot of ways more than almost any other species, even most primates. And because they are like pretty monogamous, but they later found out through like DNA testing and stuff of eggs that there's not they're socially monogamous. They pair bond, they often have a mate for life-ish.
For events.
Yeah.
We got invited to a wedding. We'll go together, but I still fuck other bitches.
Yeah, and other men. Well, there's incentive for so what'll happen is like the 10s typically pair off with the 10s, the 9s with the 9s, the 8s with the 8s,
okay,
and so on, and then you get down to the 4s.
Stay in your lanes.
Yeah. I mean, it's you 4 with a. You got someone with like a little wonky wing, maybe pairs with someone with like a missing toe or whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone finds love, but there's incentive for females that are like lower in ranking, that are paired with like a 3 or something like that. There's incentive to get genes from a higher value male. And so they'll often sneak off. And if you're like male that's like a 9 or a 10, and you see a female, like she might only be a 3, but whatever, it's just a little sperm.
Yeah.
It's still your genes going off. And not only that, but it's being raised by some other dudes putting the investment into and like going and getting the waking up early for the worms and everything else. And so
the birds are pigs too.
yeah, the birds are pigs too. And and who's the best? Is it males or females that are the pigs in that situation? It's hard to say. To me, it's just math. It just looks like math. But
it's crazy.
But yeah, so cuckolding is like it's like somewhere between like 8 and 25%, depending on the species in birds. You want to hear something very dark?
There's lots of cucks. Yeah, I do want to hear something very dark.
There is a species that is completely monogamous of birds. I forget the species.
And they die young.
Well,
something like that. What? Right?
It actually goes to it's speculative that it might say something like dark about our modern human condition.
Okay.
Which is that what a way to end the show. I'm gonna bum you out so much. I'm ready. Like, this hasn't been well tested. It's just more or less a very interesting idea. No, I'm just saying that it's like I wouldn't want someone to be like, this is a fact. Anyhow, there's a species of birds. It's completely monogamous. You get together with a male and female, get together, and they're together for life, except in the case when after that first mating season, the female doesn't produce, and then they ended up breaking up, and it's not necessarily
like, bitch,
that
you're barren. I gotta go.
That's not even necessarily the case. It's a lot of times that there's just a compatibility issue. Okay. So that female might be very fertile with another male, that male might be very fertile with another female, but something about there's actually in humans, there's you like the way that guys smell sometimes, have you noticed?
Yeah.
So there's,
and other times,
exactly.
And like, please, I can't with the aromas.
And you can't always tell from looking at a guy.
No, you can't.
So like if you have females judge males' faces, in studies, to like often come to a consensus-ish of like what they're attracted to. But if you have females judge like smells of shirts that guys had been wearing, females will be all over the map on what they prefer, and it has to do with this. It's called this major histocompatibility gene, which is that it's good to have diverse a diverse immune system in genes, and this probably explains why there's like such an attraction to like mixed race couples and everything else, and potentially, but there's this idea that you'll have different but compatible genes. The more different they are, the more you're offsetting things in the environment. Viruses are always trying to pick the locks in the immune system. So if you have someone from like a very different region, you're going to switch up those locks a lot more. So females that pick shirts, they'll test DNA and everything, and it turns out that they have like very compatible, this major histocompatibility. That's why like one guy might smell good to you, might not smell good to another lady. And so there's just sometimes incompatibility. So these birds will break up, go out and try to find love somewhere else. So that breaking up, there has to be some psychological, because no bird's doing the calculations and being like, wait, I did this. It's just there would have to be some psychological like thing that's not like, I don't really like her anymore. Or she's like, he's so messy, I'm getting out of here. Tell themselves some other conscious story of what's going on, because they don't understand these underlying mechanisms. None of us are consciously aware of this stuff. And they split up. And so here's the dark thing, is that potentially because of birth control, what's happening is that in our modern era, we're banging away. You'll meet someone, you're banging, and then like, a year and a half goes by, and subconsciously you're going like, why this isn't leading to pregnancy like it's supposed to. Like you consciously, you're not trying to have kids, right? But your subconscious is picking up on this, and so perhaps this is called the mate rejection hypothesis. Perhaps you just start like picking up on things and being like more and more critical of, you have like a real good year.
I've had a few real good years.
Me too. And then like right around 18 months or so, you start seeing some problems.
Some flags
popping up here and there. Those flags might always been there, but you didn't notice them before.
Right.
And maybe they aren't even that big of a flag, but it's just, perhaps it's this, that you're being primed by this. That may or may not be true, but it's a really compelling idea. It certainly explains all of my past relationships as a serial monogamous person. And every time I'm like, this person forever. And then like a year and a half, 2 years goes by.
I do that too.
Yeah.
I go, this is the one.
Yeah.
Got news. This one's the one.
Definitely the one.
And my mom's like, I can't ride this roller coaster with you anymore. That's how you know when you
Do you have siblings?
I have a sister, yeah.
Does she have kids?
No, she doesn't have kids.
So your mom, is she
my mom's
upset about she wants grandkids?
Well,
and
no,
stuff,
she says that she
cool?
just doesn't want to get attached.
Doesn't want to, okay.
And she doesn't want to hear like all their stories because there's always a new one with like there's some story and drama and I tell her everything because we're really close.
Yeah.
And so like she's like, wait till it's been 6 months before you start coming to me with them. Because you always think that this one's gonna be the one and they're not. So she said, I can't ride this roller coaster with you. I said, bitch, how do you think I feel? How do you fucking think I feel, Debbie? I'm the one riding the roller coaster.
Come on, Deb.
Be fun.
You gave birth to this roller coaster, Deb. You can at least hear what it has to say about the experience.
Saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sweetie. Well, this was so much fun.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I learned so much. I feel smarter. That doesn't happen often.
So my psychedelic show is also, it's a mix of science and comedy. So it's more informative than your average comedy show, but I'm also very funny. And but it's a fun mix. It's a solo show and it's combining art and everything else too. Cool. It starts April 31st. April 23rd. Psychedelic Sundays.
At Area 15.
Area 15. And we've already confirmed. So it's a 6-week trial run just in case there's like, we're not figuring out the marketing and we need to adjust or whatever. But as long as the first 2 shows go well, they're just going to keep on extending it with consistency. And it's in a small room with one screen so we can build out the more elaborate. And that, assuming the shows go well and they're filling, that could be happening as early as this summer, that it would be in the
bigger room. That's so cool.
With all 4 walls and a whole 360
Would it be like in the
experience.
Illuminarium?
Room like that.
Cool.
Exactly, like they have this portal space. But where you saw the Illuminarium,
that was cool.
A room exactly like that.
Yeah. Awesome. And then for your shows in LA this weekend, just remind people.
Creative Technology Center show at 6:30 and 9 o'clock on Friday. I am just at the time. This is like 4 or 5 days notice or something like that we're booking these. So it's just a small 50 seat. It's like a fun experimental. It's actually mind blowing. The VJ that I'm working with, like I can just go off on a riff and he'll just immediately, like I can just be like, show me birds, and it'll just be
That's
like
so
trippy
cool.
birds everywhere, and then we can like play with things in the moment and stuff. It's
That's
really
so
awesome.
fun. If you're in LA, go see him.
Yeah.
And if you're in Vegas, go see him in April, guys. And then what's your Instagram?
At Shane_Mauss.
Okay, we'll link to it.
Yeah.
And we'll link to your podcast too.
Thanks so much. Yeah, Here We Are is the science one, if you like that. Mind Under Matter's the more comedy philosophy one.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Shank. We'll see you next week. Subscribe, rate, review. You can find me here every Wednesday on Shank and then every Monday on this bitch. And I'm coming to Austin, Texas next week, baby. April 7th, I'm headlining at Vulcan Gas Co. And I will be in Texas doing spots all next week as well. And subscribe to the Patreon, rate, review, follow me at Princess Shank for show dates. And that's our episode. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.